Next up, we have our second speaker of today. His name is Umair Shafique. I hope I pronounced that well. Umair is Chief Innovation Officer at Ideate Innovation, and he will be talking about how to make how to design a financially inclusive future for underprivileged women. I'm very curious about this. Take the stage, Umair.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Cool. So it's an honor to be presenting here, to be able to share our work with the larger audience. It would have been super nice if this was in person, but probably next year. So let's get on with it. Today, if we look around, the product and services we mostly see around us are designed for users like you and I. We have yet to design system, product, and services which about for the users we know less about. The illiterate and the underprivileged group of people living around the world near or below so-called poverty line. Their needs, their ecosystems they connect with, their cultural and social norms, their spending habits, the things they value the most are still to be fully understood. Me and my team at Ideate Innovation Pakistan, we had a chance to immerse ourselves closely and study the habits and behaviors of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, partnering up with different partners like IDEO.org, Gates Foundation, GSMA, just trying to find the answer, what form of financial inclusion or digital financial inclusion they need, especially women, because at present the financial products are not designed with gendered lens, thus rendering these services largely meaningless for women in Pakistan. So this talk is about sharing the insights and barriers, and nowhere this is like a silver bullet, so that we might be able to address the problem how to design gender inclusive financial services. Let me talk about the gap. In order to show you the extent of problem, look at the banked population in the developed countries like UK, Germany, US, compared with Pakistan. That's for the male. You can see the difference. But things get even more worse when you look at the female chart. So this, only 7% of female in Pakistan are financially included, which means 59 million women in Pakistan do not have access to any sort of formal financial services. That's double the population of all the Nordic countries combined. But another point is, beyond that, if you put these charts together, you virtually see there's no difference in bank population of male and female in developed countries. But in Pakistan, you see that there's a stark difference. A woman in Pakistan is 5 times less likely to have a bank account. Let me repeat. A woman in Pakistan, adult woman in Pakistan has 5 times less likely to have any sort of formal financial connection with any sort of formal financial institutions. Now, the question, why? Why this gap is so big here and it's not in the other countries? This was the foundation. This is what we wanted to find out when we went out into the field. So we packed our bag, we went to the field, only to find out there exists a perfect bank which gives these women instant access to loans on 0 interest. They can pay those installments back in full, or they can alter the rate as they go along. The bank even comes to their homes to collect those installments. The bank is super friendly. It also helps you save cash. It's too good to be true. Someone in the audience might be saying, hey, do your secondary research before going out into the field. But we definitely do it in all of our products. But do you know what that bank is? That bank is Maji. Maji is one of the leaders, committee leaders in the community back in 30 years ago. She saw that the community was suffering with managing finances. So she started a committee formerly known as Rosca. This is when a group of women comes together to pool money monthly to monthly gather money in a pool, and at the end of the month that money is given to one of the community members. She, over the period of time, a lot of people started trusting her, and then today she is running 10 plus committees and managing finances for hundreds of people from her community. Now she is the one the financial institutions are up against. She's utterly friendly, she is compassionate, she's from the community, so the women feels super comfortable when she is while she is managing her finances. So that is the reason when you go in the field, ask women, uh, do you need a bank account? Most of them would reply, I don't have the use of a bank account. I don't have an income of my own. I don't have to send money to anyone. The count is for the rich, or the count is for the educated class. And my priorities are of that of homemaker, and to basically get married. So then the most important question comes up: why financial inclusion in the first place? Why do we need to include her financially, right? The simple answer to that question is, what Maji can provide has a limit. Maji can only, the reason why financial inclusion is important is that person like Maji can just provide a financial help to the community, which is limited by the total wealth of the community itself. That's why, in order to be able to help her, we need to include her financially to provide her access to greater economic opportunities. This will help her get access to loans and credits and basically get out of those circumstances, and essentially kill poverty. But especially for women, it's important because it empowers her, gives her a sense of autonomy and control over her matter. She has to be less and less reliant on their men counterparts, and they feel more in control. This autonomy is the key to breaking gender barriers and provide equal access to the opportunity. Now, on one hand, we have decided that financial inclusion is important for her. But on the other hand, she perceives that the existing financial services are not for her. She doesn't need them. Whatever workaround she has, they're enough for her. Now, how do we go about designing in such a scenario? In order to begin that, the first step should be to understand the local context in which they live their daily lives. So let me take you to the field. We interviewed we interviewed around 40 plus women from rural and peri-urban settings close to the main cities of Pakistan, Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi. The household income of these women was around $200 a month, or roughly $6-ish a day. Most of them, the source of income for most of them was either agriculture or people working in factories around that community. So our research was made up of contextual inquiries, observation, intercept interviews, and focus groups. to understand the context of these women. Whilst we're in the field, we have to be very careful. How do we go about doing the research? Because people from these setting, mostly from the villages, have no formal education. So we cannot just go and talk to them, just in the traditional manner. We have to understand, careful about their context. We have to be careful about our wording. We have to be careful how do we pose the questions. And in that scenario, we used different visual tools to be able to inform our research a bit more. This is a small visual exercise which we did. What we did was we basically wrote down different common decisions that a household has to make, and then we asked them to place these cards under the roles. For example, if decisions are made by husband and wife together, please put it under that. And if decisions are made all alone by a husband, please list down those decisions. You can clearly see that a number of decisions are lined under a man-like illustrations, which helps you tell the decision dynamics in the family. Another important thing which was very apparent was her mobility is restricted and her agency is low. But there were some places where she was allowed to go freely, often accompanied by someone, either from the neighbors or from her family. Even when she was accompanied by her husband, the husband tended to stay outside of the shop because it was a tailor or a garment shop where a number of women from the same community are present. In order to show respect, he stays outside. Again, understanding what dynamics she feels comfortable in. So if we put the top insights together, I'll have to go quickly through those. There's a large trust in the community and they learn from each other. Their community meets their financial needs. They can take loans from their family. They can, buy stuff on credit. Another important point is that presence of digital financial services has been increasing in Pakistan, but it largely stays irrelevant for her because it's not designed keeping her in mind, which is why whenever she has a interaction with any sort of formal financial service, it has been negative. Her reporting was that it wasn't a good experience. So the most important point is on her mobility. So she is allowed to go at certain positions and places. And what we tried to do was to map is there a theme or pattern for her mobility for different events happening in her life. You could clearly see the mobility goes down after puberty and starts rising again when she has a kid, because then she have to go to do groceries and she's allowed to go out. But there's a couple of unfortunate conditions where her mobility drastically changes. It's when either her husband dies or he's imparalyzed. Then it becomes socially acceptable for her to do whatever was previously considered unacceptable. So there are um, if in order to summarize, the priorities set for her are marriage, not education. While the digital financial services is designed for the literate. Her mobility is conditional. Any sort of digital financial services do not come to people. People need to go to it. Her role is that of a homemaker, and DFS is made for the income earners. She gains decision-making power only after her kids starts to grow up, while DFS is made for the decision makers. So unless and until we are fundamentally addressing the tensions which is in the existing financial services, we are not able to solve we are not able to solve problems for her. So for a Pakistani woman, digital financial services mostly feel irrelevant, but this also means like a huge opportunity of bringing her into the net of financial inclusion. 59 million women is a huge customer base. Developing gender neutral digital financial services are just not enough. She must be shown that these services are meant for her and they will make a difference in her life. She embodies half of Pakistan. She is ready to take hold of her financial future for herself, her family, and her community. Only a holistic financial ecosystem can help her get there. Let me just quickly go through some of the concepts that we tested or studied. So again, there were some places where she feels comfortable. So we need to find out what makes her comfortable and then design solutions around it. So she takes she whenever she goes out, she does things on one go. She would buy groceries, go to the garment shop, go to the tailor shop, and all of these are close by. And then designing of spaces. So currently the cash in cash out spaces which are designed are either crammed or they are filled with they're often filled with a male counterpart, so she feels uncomfortable while standing there. So in order to do that, we have to rethink the space of the design. So preferably with glass walls, a wide enough counter with enough space between him and the retailer, and a dedicated line or space for her where she could stand and do the transaction. And it is very common. There are a lot of door-to-door services in Pakistan. So what if we can digitize those services and bring the Kiko to her, bring the digital financial services to her? She's already buying things from a lot of door-to-door services. What if that's also that's augmented by someone making digital financial transactions with her, just to make her feel comfortable? She doesn't have to go outside, and she is able to do her stuff which she was doing previously, but now the DFS is coming to her. Later stages, if she is fine doing using these services, she could start using in other different use cases. And another thing is, how can we leverage people like Maji in the community, provide them a line of credit so that they're able to help their community a bit more and help them get out of the poverty. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Umair. That was really enlightening.